Do we have anybody guarding
Lighthouse? I don't think so.
I don't see anybody on my map.
Lighthouse? What lighthouse?
Okay, well, I'm going to walk over to Lighthouse real quick and make sure... Oh, yep, just in time.
We work so stinking hard to capture these bases and then just throw it all away. Sitting bases. It's not the most fun thing to do, but someone's gotta do it. Every expansion has certain classes and specs that are natural base sitters. Sometimes just swapping in one particular class is tempting because it'll make your team be more effective in team fights, but often it's at the risk of not being able to adequately defend nodes in maps like Arathi Basin. Having that comp full of heavy hitters can make your group more excited and pumped for the BG ahead, but you're putting a lot more stress on yourself as a strat caller and a group leader should you get any of those more objective-based maps. Lots of people whine and complain about having to sit bases, even when they know it's their job and that's why we brought them into the group. Not having any of those in your group makes it twice as hard to try and convince someone who isn't well equipped or doesn't feel well equipped to sit a base to do so when you need them to. It's an even worse argument still when your highest DPS also happens to be the only class with a pet or something that's not going to get sap capped on easily. That's why it's smart to take into consideration which classes can ideally sit bases when you're putting together that group. It's not so much about being able to hold off in a 1v1 until help arrives. The real threat comes from classes that have a lot of utility type spells that allow them to get in and, in a nice situation, either sap cap or quickly burst you down before that help can ever arrive. If you're pegged as playing one of the classes that is best suited to sit at a base and watch it throughout the entire game, there's some things that you can do in order to make yourself even more useful. One is to be able to do plenty of research on your class so that going into a BG, you can play either as one spec that's really good in a team fight or another one that's better for sitting the base. That way you're useful regardless which type of BG you end up in. With every expansion, things change. They change the spells, they change comps, they change the meta. Traditionally, hunters, frost mages, locks with a pet are generally stuck on bases. Sometimes it's normal to have a tanky type character to sit a base as well. If you are playing one of these classes, know that that's the meta and that's the expectation. If you're pulled into a group and you don't want to do that, say so up front, and if it's going to be a point of contention, you'll either end up leaving or they'll let you stick around. But don't be a jerk about it. Say something if you're uncomfortable sitting a base, or if you really don't want to. Because if you get into an AB or an Eye of the Storm, and they ask you to sit a base and you don't, then you're going to be considered the jerk of the internet. Without necessarily putting on my tinfoil hat to guess what's going to be the ideal base sitters for all time and eternity, I've got a list here of some of the things that you want to look for when evaluating a class or a patch worth of changes that's recently come out to see, is this class still good for sitting a base, or how can this class be talented better in order to sit bases? A class with traps has that additional chance to stop someone from capping when all else has gone wrong. Having a trap on the flag at all times basically says, if I get sapped and I have no pet out, and maybe I just misclicked something, at least I have that little bit of insurance. All through WoD, people like to sit rogues at bases in stealth the whole time, permanently. One, because if you go up and try and sap cap somebody who is in stealth, you can roam around the map and try and guess where they might be sitting and maybe get lucky and pull them out of stealth. Good rogues know how to do that, but it's hard and it takes a long time. Having multiple trinkets or freedoms or ways of being able to get yourself out of a sap or a blind or CC in general are quite useful as well. The trick here is you gotta be able to engage them into that 1v1 so they can't get the flag, stay alive for long enough that somebody can peel away from the main fight to help you if needed, and not get stuck in a chain CC that will ultimately end in you losing the node. Having some passive abilities that reduce CC effects enough that you're gonna have enough time to get an instant cast off just in time to stop someone from capping can also be useful. A lot of times, the amount of time that you will sit in a CC happens to be at most the exact amount of time that it takes to start capping a flag and actually finish the cast bar. If you can shorten that by any amount, that opens up a small window of opportunity if you're within range to hit them. Pets are the ultimate way of keeping people from capping a flag. They can do whatever they need to you, but if you're good at directing your pet, you can have your pet go and stop them from capping the flag, even though you're caught in an ice block or feared or something. Ideally, you only need to do this a little bit because then you have a trinket or something to get you out of the next CC, and you can get into that 1v1 where then the timer is ticking and you should be calling inks by then. Having several immunity cooldowns like hunters and mages all had during WoD are useful for extending that time in which you can spin even during a lost cause. If you can stay alive for a full 30 seconds, even though you're being 3v1'd at a base, that's 30 seconds that somebody else, like a healer, might have to get to you and keep you alive and stop them from getting a quick cap. Finally, just being good in just 1v1 duels can be quite useful, specifically against those classes that are generally pegged as the pressure classes, like rogues and feral druids and sometimes mages. Those that come in and try and cap consistently, if you're good at 1v1ing them, when they come and unsuccessfully try and cap on you, and you manage to kill them, if you can announce that to your team and to your strat caller, what's that telling me as a strat caller is I get a free 30 seconds of no pressure time in which I can sort of get some stability on the map. And 30 seconds isn't a long time, but it's enough time for me to say, okay, the next person with the res, go and just be within range of that next node, because I know that your trinket may be gone, and you need a little bit of backup just in case they res and come back directly for you, because they know they've already got your cooldowns. Lastly, I want to give you a tip if you are the one guarding bases, and say you're working in a regular BG or some kind of YOLO where there is no voice chat or everyone isn't in voice chat. There is an add-on called BG Defender. I've been using it for several years and it is incredible. It's lightweight, it's small, it shows up in a tiny box on your screen with just a couple of buttons, and it kind of tells where you are in relation to key objectives on a map. Anybody that comes to attack you, you want to give an incoming warning to the rest of your team as quickly as possible, even if you think you can 1v1 them, because you don't know if somebody is in stealth behind that attacker. And so you got to give that ink really early, and you don't have the time often to stop and type in chat, incoming lumber mill or mines or wherever you're sitting. This add-on allows me to click a simple button, a range of 1 to 5, or just help or hey, everything's cool. And I don't have to type anything. It's like having macros for all of these. It's downloadable from the Curse client. Finding good base sitters can sometimes be a challenge, and I know it's not the most fun thing to do all the time, but good base sitters can be highly appreciated too. And as a strat caller and group leader, I know that the good base sitters that I can rely on to be agile and to fill in a pinch and not complain can make all the difference in a BG. Sometimes those base sitters will be sought after just as much as good healers. Let me know what you think in the comments below about base sitting. Have you had to do it a lot? Are you tired of that? Which classes do you think are going to be the ideal base sitters in the upcoming expansions? It's like the Dirty Jobs of RBGs series. But I don't think I could probably get a series out of this. You know, healing can sometimes be a dirty job, but people will actually enjoy that.